Why do we expect people to change if we never show them how to change? It's podcast time. This is Changeability. It's real change for real people made real simple. Today's guest is a school principal turning a corporate trainer. Welcome, Andrew. Where does this podcast find you?
Oh, well, thank you, Julian. Yeah, I'm speaking from Adelaide in South Australia.
Oh, nice place. I'm going to be flying over there in 2 days' time on my way to Western Australia to swim with some whale sharks. There you go.
That's well,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah. It's going to be nice. I'll wave out of the window as we go over. So just to put some context to this. Andrew and I have known each other. Well, it must be nearly a decade. Would that be right, Andrew?
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. I reckon it would be around then. Yes, it was.
Yeah. And so
back in early YouTube days.
that was it. I had a channel on YouTube called Julian's Magician School, where I showed people all around the world who wanted to become better magic presenters. And I presented simple tricks and then put a little performance around those. That got traction, and that led me on to co-creating a business called the Kids Entertainer Academy, and we took professional children's entertainers all around the world who wanted to improve, or maybe they were sometime or part-time children's entertainers, and we helped them become full-time children's entertainers. Andrew was part of that cohort that went through, and we have stayed connected over all these years. It's okay. I just got a warning sign up there. I've had an ISO recording. And we have, stayed in contact. And then the other day, a message comes from Andrew and he goes, you know what? I'm no longer a school principal. I've resigned. And I went, there is a guy who is going through change. We need to talk to Andrew. So with just setting that up, Andrew, just tell us, where you've been for the last couple of years, what you've been going through, and maybe some of that thinking in your head and where that's leading you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually been a few different changes over my career, as you'd be aware of. So those days of the Magician School, I actually launched a business performing school assemblies, and I was teaching part-time, and I was doing that part-time. And it's probably there's a lot of lessons learned in that one. I launched then with a product that I knew was an outstanding product, but a very difficult market to get into. There wasn't enough of a market to sustain it. So I knew if I got booked once by a school, I would get booked back multiple times because the product was really good. But to get your foot in a door, I foolishly thought, I've worked in schools for decades, I would be able to get in. But no, actually, there's just not money for people to pay for that service. So sort of lesson learned. And I was weighing up whether to actually really push harder and even start to invest some money in some marketing and things like that, or whether to explore sort of further opportunities within education. And while I was doing that, a once-off, never happened before semi-leadership position was created at the school that I was working at. And I thought, actually, maybe I'll give that a go. I'd like to dip my toe in the water there. So I did that for a year, really, really enjoyed it. Had a lot of opportunities to still use the magic and the ventriloquism and entertain kids and work with kids. And what I'd wanted to do was actually make a difference with kids, not just entertain. Hence the school performances were around bully proofing and things like that, and really wanting to make a difference in kids' lives. And here I was doing that in the school that I'd been for a long time. That position then ended up springboarding into a principal position at a school within the same system of schools. Stepping up to the principal role. So I've been doing that for 5 years and loved it, absolutely loved it. For quite a few years, I was really feeling the happiest I'd ever felt professionally. And it was a school that at the time that I went, it was actually really struggling. It had been through a lot of change, and sometimes change is not easy. So change can be exciting, but in this case, change had, I guess, left a bit of a legacy of uncertainty And so enrolment numbers had dropped off significantly. There was talk among the parent community, rumours that the school was going to close. It wasn't, but that was the rumour. So then people were jumping ship, and it was quite a tipping point time for the school. And so starting there was hugely challenging. I had to very quickly build up relationships with the community, reassure everyone it wasn't closing, start to work with the team again. And now, 5 years later, the school grew a bit over 50% in 5 years and is really healthy and strong. And I've just been reflecting on that journey, that as hard as it was those early days, there was actually a lot of really difficult conversations, a lot of people carrying a lot of pain, very emotionally intense conversations. But that process of building a team and actually strengthening a group of people and see them start to find their feet, that process of building a community and starting to see people have that sense of hope again and that strong desire to connect into the vision and mission of the school, that was really exciting. And then COVID hit. So we had to manage the school through the 2 years or so of intense disruption, and we didn't lose a single staff member or a single family. It was remarkable to see that the team was at a point that they could weather that kind of a storm and become stronger because of it. So now, sort of post-COVID, working in schools it's a very varied and very spread kind of a job. And a couple of things happened together, and I'm not entirely sure which one is the horse and which one's the cart, or which one's the chicken, which one's the egg. But last year, I was really starting to feel a bit of a stirring that I wasn't sure if this principal thing was long-term where I needed to be. There are a lot of parts of that role that I wasn't feeling were really a good fit. The actual people stuff was an excellent fit. The team stuff was an excellent fit. And I started to even just wonder sort of what next. And then I won't go into a lot of detail on this part, but there was quite a significant tragedy in my family at the start of this year. And so I had to just pull right out. I had to say, I'm sorry, I'm just completely unavailable. And one of the next tier leaders stepped into the gap there. And so I thankfully have, because I've been working in that school a long time, had a lot of sick leave and carers leave to take care of people in my family that needed care. And I also had accrued some long service leave. And during that time, I really started to think about, I don't think I should be going back to that principal role, and started to explore some other options. I was actually talking with different friends. So I have always, when I've gone to trainings and professional development, I've always enjoyed getting that input. But most of the time I've sat there going, I wonder how they ended up with that job. That just looks a great job. I'd love to do that. And just talking to different people and weighing up some options, some different people reflected that actually, no, you'd be really good in that space. And I think the principal role was becoming increasingly administrative and less about developing people. And so, I've decided to take the plunge. That's been quite a process about how we actually start to plan toward that change. Would you like me just to keep going on?
Yeah, I would like. I mean, there's so much I want to talk about here, and we'll just touch upon a few of them. You say we. You say we change. Who is we, and what, and what's the consequence of we?
Sure, I guess. So I am married and with children, and so it's a change like this is always going to impact family. And so I guess when I'm saying we, I would particularly mean my wife and I, as we've talked a lot about different things. It's sort of had to be a shared decision there because it is a significant impact on income and things like that.
Yeah, because it's true. I mean, change does not happen in isolation. I mean, none of us, live on an island, and change is difficult. I mean, in my experience, my family, as much as I love them dearly, are the worst people to float ideas about change past when it's about
Yeah.
change with me, because what I found is that within me, I want to change, and like you, I was sitting in audiences and watching people and thinking, I should actually be listening to what they're saying, but I'm actually,
Yeah.
wow, how do they get that? And then
Yeah.
I found that if I take that to my family, it scares them,
Yeah.
because they don't share that journey of personal, discovery that I was on. All they think is the downside of that. Wow, if he's going to change, is that going to change everything we've
Yeah.
got? And there's a lot of fear there. Did you experience that?
Yes. So when I launched the school assembly business back then, that was very much the case. It did have implications of a drop in income and some things like that, and it was scary. You've got young kids, you've got food on the table. It's scary to suddenly take any kind of a step away from a secure, stable income. That is scary stuff. It is a bit of a step of faith, isn't it? This time round, look, I would not suggest this as a recommended process for change, but the family tragedy put everything back into stark relief. And I think my wife had seen that last year there were aspects of the job that really were not working for me, and therefore not for our family either. So she sort of recognized as well that there was a bit of a stirring in me that, look, this has been fantastic and I've learned so much, and it's been great to see the fruit of that. But, long term, it's not really where I needed to be. And so when we face something really difficult as a family, it just, I guess, reordered some priorities again. And we did have to have quite a look at our budget and chop a lot of things out. And as we did that for a while, we suddenly realized, well, actually, we thought we were running pretty lean in our budget. And you suddenly realize, no, actually, when push really comes to shove, you can live on less. And then we were starting to reconnect as a family as well, and not because we were spending lots of money on a holiday, but just because we had time in the evenings, time in the mornings, different things like that. So yeah, it's taken something significant, I guess, for us as a family to rethink those priorities and to not be quite as scared of the change. Now, we do still have a backup plan, so we're not just going out on a limb being stupid. But yeah, we've had to make those cuts in our lifestyle, and we've actually realised, no, that's okay. We can live like that. Hopefully, not forever. There might be a time down the track where income goes up again, but having those things that money buys are not actually the source of our happiness or contentment.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much the case, isn't it? That, I mean, if you want something new, you've got to be prepared to sacrifice something in your life. I mean, there's just not the bandwidth in our lives to be the people we are now and change into someone new. I mean, we have to jettison something,
Yes.
and at time that can be physical,
Yeah.
that can be financial. More often than not, it's psychological and emotional stuff that we have to get rid of and free up space. When was the? I'm a firm believer that change is not a process. Change is a decision, and you just have to look at little kids for that
Yeah.
to know that if I don't want to, you can't make me. But if I've decided to, you can't stop me. And that is
Yeah.
change. That is that point. Once
Yeah.
that decision has been made. Did you have a point where you decided?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I did. I had a point where, for a number of reasons, I decided to not go back to being a principal. That was true. That was while one of my children were in hospital. And yeah, I remember there being a realization, actually, that was not where I wanted to be. And that's actually been a really hard thing because the people in that school are really dear to me. And the community of that school is really dear to me as well. And
What's the
so just
support being? What is? Sorry, to jump in
yeah,
there, but what is the effect of that? Is that do you get? Have you got solid support, or is there any resentment?
yeah. Look, I think because of what this change has been very different to what the way a principal would normally leave a school too. So I think for some people there has been confusion. They've looked on and seen someone who was quite successful in that role, a school that was growing and flourishing, and people are genuinely confused by that. Uh, the people who know me closest are probably a mixture of confusion, a bit of a mixture of sadness because we won't be seeing each other every day, but a bit of a registration in their heart that it's the right thing as well. So yeah, a range of emotions, and you've just got to sometimes be okay that not everyone is going to get it, not everyone's going to see it the way you see it, and that's okay because that I've been part of their journey, but then we're not always going to journey the same direction. People do come and go in life, and especially in schools. Schools are places that change a lot. Actually, you could do a whole episode on that. Schools have constant change.
Yeah. Did this change that you've been going through, have you done it stealthily, as in have you kept it all to yourself and then just surprise, I'm going, or has it been something that you've been talking about?
Oh yes, um, I think the fact that last year, before any of these things had happened, there was something stirring in me. Just not sure if that was long term where I needed to remain. And I'd spoken to a few trusted people about that, but I wasn't sure. And so you don't go and unsettle a whole community when you're not sure. And I was actually fully committed to seeing out this year at the school. I'd signed a new contract. I was like, no, there's enough good stuff in this to sort of warrant keep going. Um, and so, yeah, look, it was probably a change that caught me by surprise and a change that then caught a lot of people by surprise.
So, outside of that immediate, I guess, professional part of the school, uh, the professional community, but also the parent community. Was there a close, um, um, someone close to you, or a group of people who you were sharing with this with? Because the reason I found is that when I get excited about something and I know I'm changing, and people, I can see other people will feed off that energy. It's
Yeah,
like an
yeah,
enthusiasm that sort of oozes out of you, and it's
yes.
very powerful for other people. Did you experience that?
Look, not so much probably because I think this is something I've wanted to do for a long time, but it's always been one day. I
Right.
hadn't, it's not like I was really gearing up to go, right, 2024 is the year. It's always been something like, well, eventually when the time's right, maybe when we've paid a bit off the mortgage, or maybe the kids have finished school, you haven't got school fees, or, so it's sort of been a longer term thing. And when I've talked to people about that, they've been like, oh, yeah, I could see you doing that. That would be a good fit. That would be, but, um, so yeah, I think the fact that I hadn't been processing that quite as long, I probably haven't had as many of those kind of conversations.
Right. So, what have been the stories in your head that you've been running through, uh, telling yourself that, good for this role? That, like, I mean, who am I? The classic imposter syndrome. Has that been going
Yeah.
through your head?
Yeah, it has a bit. So at first, and I was talking to a couple of very close friends who know me really well, and they said, you have so much to offer now in that training space because of your experience as a principal. They said that is a really unique insight that becomes incredibly valuable to other people. And they said, Andrew, you are someone you can just sit down and have a good chat with if someone's got a question about this sort of area, whether it's developing people or managing priorities and these sorts of things. They said you're a great person to talk to. They saw that as a really good fit. So yeah, there's people who've resonated with that.
Yeah. I mean, I've
I think,
suffered that all my life. I
yeah,
mean, even now I talk about change. It is, it has literally taken me 40 years of
yeah,
doing change, of living change, to
yeah,
actually feel like I'm a competent
mm,
and entitled. It's a strange thing. You worry about, am I, you put yourself out there, I'll come up against, academics and that, and,
yeah,
and there's I have lived experience. They have, research and
mm.
academic experience. And I find that, you can complement each other's,
Well,
but
that's
it's,
the thing that helped me along because I was at first looking at just getting another job, but in the training world. And all the jobs, they kept on requiring certain certifications. And I don't have that certificate, but I know full well I could sit down with a group of people and we could talk about that topic, even if it's developing your people. Let's take that as an example. Now, I don't have formal HR qualifications, which all the jobs wanted, but I've got years of experience of building teams, developing people, getting a brand new teacher fresh out of college who really they've done their degree but they don't know anything yet. You've got to mentor them and teach them and help them, let them fail sometimes, be a safe place for them to talk, all of those things. And I was just starting to go, well, I don't have the piece of paper. And that's where we're talking to people, they said, yeah, but people would value your experience. And so the thought of actually launching out of my own business and leveraging my experience rather than academic qualification was part of the journey of the decision to look at a business rather than just another job.
yeah. See, industries, businesses, all are full of experts. They and who know the job, and they have the qualifications, but they don't need any more of those because they
Yeah,
know what they need to be doing, but they're not doing it. They need
yes,
people like you to come in with a different flavour, with an outside perspective. And to give them that nudge along and go, listen, take what you already know, here's it from a different angle, and try to get them to actually doing it. And there's huge value in that. And it took me years to actually
right.
understand that.
Yeah. I mean, you just have so much to. I've actually loved following your career, Julian, and just seeing because you're quite open about the lessons that you learn along the way and the mistakes you make and the transitions you make and the why. And it's actually been fascinating, to see all of that unfold as you've tried. And sometimes I've loved this. You've experimented in some things that didn't work. Oh well, gave that a crack. I'm going back to this thing now, and that's been really, I guess, inspiring for me to watch from afar for a while.
Yeah, it's fail quickly, fail quietly, repeat. It is, you've got to double your failure rate to double your success rate. It's
Yeah.
just the way it works, and
Mm.
yeah. But and anyway, we could talk about me for ages because I find that a fascinating subject, but we won't. uh, So, Andrew, if people want to connect with you or contact you, where can they do that? Where can they find you?
Yeah, probably like at the moment, this is very early days. So I'm actually having lots of conversations with people. So the easiest way to get in touch with me at the moment is really just through LinkedIn. And I have only just registered my ABN. So this is very early days. So I don't have a website yet or anything. But one of the things I learned from trying to launch a school assemblies show is do your market research. So before I build a website or get a name, I'm having lots of conversations at the moment with people I know in schools, but also wanting to reach out to people in other industries that I know and say, what does training and development look like for your team? What have you found works really well? Is there something you wish you could access that wasn't in the market yet? And just getting lots of that kind of feedback. So that's why I haven't sort of rushed ahead this time. I'm really wanting to learn a different way and say, well, where can I best serve the gaps that exist rather than, hey, here's this awesome product I think I could do. Let me work out how to sell it.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. I walked away from my TV career with hope in my heart. I was going to change the world to a complete failure, and I learnt that important lesson, which you just said: never open a restaurant unless you've got a starving crowd. You got to do that work first. Yeah. And, there you go. I mean, I knew nothing about business. I've been able to build and sell a very small and modest business. But, these are all skills. Everything is a skill that you can learn if you apply yourself. And, I'm just thinking something you said earlier as well. You said that you took some long service leave to think this through, and that's a really valuable thing to do. If you have that time to get away from where you're working and just free up the space around you, free up the space inside your head, and to start to have these conversations. Because as we know, it's just so if you've got your nose to the grindstone. These sort of, you can't get the clarity that you need.
No, especially in a very busy, I would say a principal role is similar to some of the very busy corporate roles. You just have stuff coming at you all day, and then you even get things come at you out of hours and things like that. And some of the learning of how I manage that is actually what I believe can help others who face similar pressures at work. Yeah, if you're wanting to make a big change, you definitely need to get away from that real sort of in your face busyness, don't you? So the long service leave is actually a great provision that way.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of this. I like to say, don't resign, rewire. So a lot of people think, things are going wrong. Maybe they've got stress at work. Maybe there's conflict going on, and there's this idea that I'm just going, if I resign, I'll work it out. Don't do that, because your job offers you money. And at least you can live while you're thinking, and you can work out a new strategy. Do not jump too early. I say that from experience.
Well, we have definitely, I just resonate that because we've done our sums. And one of the beauties about being a teacher is you can register for like relief teaching, filling in when someone's sick, or substitute teaching. And so that provides a ton of flexibility. Now, we've definitely had to cut our cloth to measure and eliminate some expenses out of our life. But we did do our sums that by picking up, enough days of the week of work there. But then it does mean if there's a client that you're needing to meet with, or a training you're needing to run, you can block that week out and not take on any work in a school, and then pick it up again when it's quiet. And also, because of my entertainer skills, I know I can pick up a lot of work in school holidays. So we've got plans in place. We haven't just gone, forget it, I've had enough, we're off to do something else. What you say there, Julian, is so true. Because we talk about fear, and sometimes the fear of loss of income. Well, that's actually a healthy fear, because you can't just expect money to fall out of the sky, can you?
No, it's learn that very, very early on. It's a tough life lesson. Hey, Andrew, it's been an absolute blast catching up with you and talking with you. Keep us informed about how the journey goes, maybe we'll come back and catch up and have a part 2.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay, mate. Hooroo.